You lie in bed, your chest rising and falling in slow, measured rhythms. Around you, the world softens. The edges of your thoughts blur like ink dissolving in water. There's a breath, and then a space between. A pause where everything feels still. The peculiar sense that something more is happening behind your thoughts. That your consciousness isn't just electrical signals or neurons firing like wires sparking in a dark room. Tonight, you begin a journey to explore the science and the poetry behind that mystery. What is a soul? It's not a term you'll find neatly labeled in a scientific journal, but scientists, philosophers, and seekers alike have long circled this question, drawn in by something they can't quite explain. Perhaps you've asked it too, in the quiet, when no one is listening. Is there something in you that survives beyond the physical? Something that lingers when breath stops? To begin this search, we return to the very foundation of your being, your brain, your body, and the strange thing we call consciousness. Scientists define consciousness as your awareness of yourself and the world around you. But that definition is like trying to explain music by holding up a violin. It misses the essence, the resonance, the texture, the feeling that stirs in your chest when a song moves through you. So tonight, you close your eyes. Let your mind wander gently. Imagine your consciousness as a soft light within, flickering, changing shape, yet always there. A glow that hums beneath your thoughts. You are not your heartbeat. You are not your breathing. You are the awareness of both. You are the observer, not just the machinery. Science has started to echo this idea. In carefully controlled studies, researchers have found that people who were technically declared dead, no heartbeat, no brainwave activity, still reported memories and vivid experiences after being revived. These are not simply anecdotes anymore. They are data, studies, patterns. In 2014, a massive study led by Dr. Sam Parnea tracked hundreds of cardiac arrest patients across multiple hospitals. Some of them came back with clear, detailed memories of things that happened while they were clinically dead. One man described a room, a conversation, even the sounds of machines, all confirmed later by medical staff. How could he know any of it? His brain had no activity, no oxygen, no reason to be aware. You sink deeper into your pillow. The thought presses against the walls of your mind, softly, like a feather brushing against skin. If consciousness can exist beyond a flat line, even for moments, what does that mean? Some scientists call this a non-local consciousness. A strange term. It suggests your awareness isn't trapped in your skull like a bird in a cage. Instead, it might be something more like a field, a wave, an invisible presence that uses your brain as a tool, but is not limited to it. Imagine tuning into a radio station. The music is there, even when the radio is off. The signal exists. You just need a receiver to hear it. It's a poetic idea, but it is also part of real, emerging theories. Some physicists propose that consciousness might be a fundamental part of the universe, like gravity or time. Something woven into the fabric of reality itself. Not created by your brain, but filtered through it. You breathe slowly now. With each exhale, your mind loosens. Like a kite on a long, invisible string, it drifts higher, watching the landscape of thought and sensation from above. If consciousness is not made by the brain, but only hosted by it, what does that mean for death? Does the light vanish, or simply return to where it came from? Across cultures and ages, humans have described this light, the soul, in so many forms, as a whisper, a flicker, a shadow, a warmth. Science has avoided the word soul for a long time. It felt too spiritual, too imprecise. But now, the data is pulling researchers back toward the mystery. One thing is certain: the brain cannot explain all of it. Neuroscientists still cannot tell you exactly where consciousness resides. They can point to networks, to regions that light up during thinking, dreaming, remembering. But no one has found the source. No one has found the eye behind your eyes. And that brings us to the silence, the place between moments. Because sometimes the most powerful part of an experience is not the noise, but the quiet it leaves behind. What if your soul is like that silence? Not measurable, not material, but undeniably there, tonight. As you drift further into sleep, remember this: even the most brilliant minds in science do not yet know what you truly are. Not completely. You are neurons, yes, but also wonder. You are biology, but also story. There's something in you that watches, listens, and questions even now, even here. In this slow twilight between waking and dreaming, you are more than your body. Maybe even more than your mind. You are the breath between moments. Breath is only the beginning, and in the next chapter, you'll follow that breath further into the heart of near-death experiences, where consciousness dares to linger beyond the edge. Asterix, you're floating now, not through space, but through understanding, soft, steady, and slow. Each breath takes you deeper. The world narrows to the rhythm of your heartbeat and then stops. Imagine that moment. The instant your heart ceases its familiar thump. The blood stills. Oxygen halts its quiet journey to every cell. In a hospital, This is called death. Electrodes go flat. Monitors emit a single note. The body no longer responds. But something strange has been discovered in those moments. Something science is only beginning to admit. Consciousness, in some cases, doesn't vanish. You remain still now, eyes closed, breath shallow. Let your thoughts echo through this space. Picture the operating room, cool, sterile air, the hurried rustle of nurses, the metallic click of instruments. For some people who've crossed that boundary, clinically dead, they describe this. Seen as if they were watching it from above, how can that be? In the largest study of its kind, led by Dr. Sam Parnia and published in 2014, researchers examined over 2,000 cardiac arrest cases. Of those who were revived, nearly 40% reported some form of awareness during the time they were clinically dead. Not dreamlike, not confused, but clear, coherent experiences. One man, declared dead for over 3 minutes, recalled watching the doctors from above. He described specific actions, even the sound of the defibrillator beeping. Everything he said matched what actually occurred in the room. Even though his brain should have been silent, you might feel a tingle on your skin now, a tiny shiver that rises from the base of your spine. That's your body reacting to something deeper than fact. It's reacting to mystery. Scientists once assumed that the brain dies within seconds of cardiac arrest. But new research shows something surprising. In the moments after death, the brain doesn't go dark. Instead, it flashes. Bursts of organized activity sweep through it. Not chaos, but a strange, final wave of clarity. This moment has been called the final surge. For some, it's a flood of memory, a sensation of review, not just images, but feelings, relationships, regrets, love. A lifetime scene, not as a film, but as an experience felt all at once. It's like a final spark before the candle is gone. Or perhaps it's a doorway opening. You breathe in softly. The room around you is quiet, but your thoughts are alive. Could it be that consciousness detaches, not ends, when the body falters? Could there be a part of you that continues to observe even after the lights go out? Across cultures, across centuries, the stories repeat. People floating above their bodies, moving through tunnels of light, encountering something that feels like presence, immense, loving, infinite. Some describe it as God, others as a field of light. Scientists, of course, are cautious. They search for oxygen deprivation, hallucination, dream states, and yet the accounts continue. These aren't wild tales scribbled on paper. They come from surgeons, from pilots, from skeptics, people with no interest in fantasy. People who had no heartbeat and then came back, changed. In 2022, researchers at NYU Langone recorded brain activity in patients during the process of death. They found patterns that resembled conscious thought after clinical death. That finding sent quiet ripples through the scientific world. Because, if it's true, then the line between life and death isn't as solid as we thought. You drift. Now, between ideas, between the heartbeat and the silence, you feel the weight of not knowing, but also the comfort of possibility. Science isn't ready to say the soul exists, but it is ready to admit something strange is happening. Consciousness doesn't seem to behave like a flame that it behaves more like a signal, one that might keep transmitting even when the receiver is gone. This leads to questions that keep researchers awake at night. What if consciousness is a property of the universe, not just the brain? What if your thoughts, yourself, your I, isn't stored in your head, but tuned through it? Some theoretical physicists suggest that space-time itself may emerge from something deeper, a field of consciousness that sounds like science fiction. But it's a question wrapped in math, quantum theory, and strange particles that flicker in and out of existence. In a lab, they study these things with cold logic. But here, in the quiet of your room, you feel it differently. As you drift into sleep, your thoughts begin to dissolve. You're not unconscious. You're something else, suspended, floating, watching the thoughts pass like clouds. Is this what death feels like? Not an end, but a soft unfurling. Even if the science cannot yet give you answers, it gives you permission to wonder. And sometimes, wondering is the closest we come to truth. Tonight, the line between science and soul blurs just enough for you to peer through. Through that gap, you see not fear, but curiosity. Not darkness, but a new kind of light. So, let your breath slow. Let the silence wrap around you like a blanket. Something waits beyond the edge of understanding, not with answers, but with presence. And if consciousness continues past the heart's final beat, then perhaps so do you. In Chapter 3, we will travel deeper into the science behind brain activity at the edge of death, and explore how memory, light, and time may not work the way we think they do. Close your eyes. Feel the warmth behind your eyelids. That gentle flicker, like the memory of sunlight, even in darkness. That's where we begin tonight. Not in the cold, mechanical hum of machines, but in the soft fire of memory. Is strange. It doesn't follow rules. It's not a shelf of neat boxes, one dated and sealed. No, memory is like light. It bends, reflects, echoes. Now, imagine this. You are dying. Your heart has stopped. Your body, by all clinical definitions, is no longer alive, and yet your mind ignites in study after study. Patients who were briefly dead describe something remarkable, a sudden, vivid review of their life. Not as a slideshow, not in chronological order, but as a feeling, a total immersion into who they were. Every choice, every pain, every joy, it happens in an instant, they say, but it feels eternal, like time stretches to hold everything at once. How is that possible? Let's go deeper. Scientists at the University of Michigan, in a 2013 study, placed IG sensors on rats as they were euthanized. What they found startled them. In the 30 seconds after the heart stopped, the rats' brains lit up with intense gamma activity, more active than during waking life. This burst happened after clinical death. Similar studies in humans now suggest the same. When the heart goes still, the brain doesn't fade, gently it flares. And during that flare, the areas associated with memory, emotion, vision, all ignite. It's as if the brain is trying to tell one last story. Your story. Breathe in now, slowly. Let your mind drift to your own memories, not just the ones you recall, but the ones buried deep. The way your mother looked when she laughed, the smell of rain on the first day of school, the hand you didn't hold, the apology you never gave, the song that broke you, the moment you realized you were alive. Now imagine all those memories unfolding at once, not as words, but as waves. That's what some call the panoramic life review. Not a hallucination, not a dream, but a full sensory immersion into your own existence. And it begs the question, who is doing the reviewing? If the brain is shutting down, why is there so much activity? And why is it organized? You see, random electrical discharges would be chaotic noise. But what scientists are seeing is structure. Gamma waves, coherence, intentionality, that points not to death, but to something resembling awareness. Let's stay here a moment longer. In 2023, researchers studying terminal patients observed coordinated bursts of brain activity seconds after cardiac arrest. Not in all patients, but in enough to challenge what we thought we knew. They witnessed something like consciousness flickering even after death. And if that's true, what is memory? Is it just neurons? Or is it more? Some theories suggest memory may not be entirely stored in the brain. Instead, the brain may be a receiver, like a radio picking up a signal. That signal, consciousness itself. And if consciousness exists beyond the brain. Then perhaps memory does too. You feel the weight of this thought settle over you like fog. It's not heavy, it's comforting. It means that nothing is ever truly gone. Every moment you've lived, every person you've loved, every breath you've taken, it might all be waiting just beyond the veil, preserved, not in time, but in light. Light. That word returns again and again in these stories. People who've crossed the edge and come back often speak of light blinding, brilliant, but not painful. They say it knew them. They say it understood. What kind of memory is that? Perhaps not your memory of life, but life's memory of you. You are not drifting now. You are surrounded, cased in the echoes of who you are. What death might be. Not silence, but remembrance. Let your breath settle. Let your thoughts go dim. You are not here to solve the mystery, only to sit with it in religious texts, in ancient philosophies, in near-death accounts. There is one strange harmony that, in the end, you are not judged. You are shown, not by an outside force, but by yourself. You see everything. You feel everything. You become the observer of your own life. And if the observer remains, even when the body does not, then what have we discovered? Maybe memory is more than brain tissue. Maybe it's a thread of light, weaving your presence through the universe itself. Tonight, science doesn't give you certainty, but it gives you a strange kind of hope that nothing is lost, that love endures, that memory is not confined to the living, but echoes in the very structure of space and time. In Chapter 4, we'll explore the boundary between time and perception, and the curious reports of people who claim they left their bodies and returned with knowledge they couldn't have known. Let your breath slow. Let your body soften. You are not just lying down tonight. You are floating above the line that separates what is seen from what is felt. Tonight, we explore what happens outside the body. Close your eyes and imagine this. You are lying on an operating table. Your chest is open. Your heart has stopped. Machines whine in rhythm. Doctors are moving quickly. You shouldn't be aware. You shouldn't be at all. But something in you is watching. You feel calm, detached, light, and then you float upward. This is what many people report after surviving cardiac arrest. They say they drifted often to the ceiling, able to see their own lifeless body, not from within, but from above. Some describe what doctors were wearing. What instruments were used, even what music was playing. And they were right in hospital after hospital. These stories persist. People clinically dead for minutes, recalling details they couldn't have possibly seen. Names of nurses they never met. locations of objects hidden from view. Science is starting to listen. In one of the largest studies of its kind, known as the Awareness During Resuscitation AWARE project, researchers placed visual targets in cardiac wards, high up, visible only from the ceiling. They monitored brain function and consciousness in patients who had flatlined, and although only a small number recalled details, one patient described events accurately, including auditory information verified by staff. Even more curious, his brain had stopped showing activity for several minutes. Yet something had seen, something had heard. What was it? Your mind wanders now, soft like fog, to the question, is consciousness located? We've always thought the brain is the source. But what if it's just the receiver? Like a telescope catching light from distant stars. Your body, your brain filters, limits, shapes. But perhaps when the filter breaks down, the signal becomes clear. It might sound impossible, but physicists have wondered the same. Quantum theory, one of the most zestful models in all of science, tells us something odd. The observer matters. Subatomic particles don't behave as solid objects until they're observed, until consciousness interacts. It's called the observer effect. So what happens when the observer steps outside? If consciousness is not bound by the brain, then maybe it never really dies. Now let's come back to those who have been outside. Some describe slipping through walls, seeing loved ones waiting. Others speak of timelessness, no past, no future, just an ocean of presence. It's not a dream. They say it's more real than waking life. Time behaves strangely in these reports. A few minutes in a hospital bed feels like hours, even days in that state. Physics backs this up. Time, as we know it, is not fixed. It stretches and bends based on gravity, motion, and perception. So if consciousness detaches from the body, it might also detach from time. You are not just remembering now, you are imagining. You are sensing what it would feel like to see the world from above with no breath, no blood, no bones. Only awareness, only clarity, and the strange thing, you don't feel afraid. Almost every account speaks of peace, not panic, not fear, just ease. As if letting go wasn't the end, but a return. What does that mean? Maybe when the body sleeps forever, the mind wakes up. Science cannot say this with certainty, but it cannot ignore it either. In recent years, more and more neurologists and cardiologists are calling for deeper research. Consciousness, they say, is not a thing. It's a field, a property of the universe itself. You breathe slowly now, feeling your own body as if from outside it. Your not leaving, but you're noticing your heart, your ribs, the air moving through your lungs. The world, as it appears to you, is still inside your skull. The you that sees it, maybe not. Is that comforting? It should be, because it means that even when your heart stops, something in you might rise. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, but actually. Perhaps that is why the final moments are often described not with dread, but with awe. You are not falling. You are floating. You are not ending. You are expanding. You are not dying. You are becoming. Unbound, in Chapter 5, we will explore how dreams and altered states of consciousness mirror these near-death experiences, in what that says about the true nature of reality. Asterisk, you are lying still, eyes closed, but your inner world stirs. Form where there was once darkness. Scenes bloom behind your eyelids. A familiar street, a forgotten memory, a voice that doesn't belong to this hour of night. You're dreaming, but what if your dream is a message? What if it is more than just memory or mind wander? What if your dream right now a mirror of something much deeper? That's what this chapter asks, not as science fiction, but as a soft unfolding of the strange truth behind consciousness. Because dreams and death, so different in shape, may be closer in nature than we ever thought. Let us begin here. You've had those dreams, haven't you? The ones that feel more real than waking life, where time loses meaning, where you know you are not in your body, yet you are utterly present. Sometimes you fly. Sometimes you meet people who are long gone. Sometimes you are watching yourself from somewhere else. This isn't poetry. These are reports, documented over decades, from artists, monks, trauma survivors, and even scientists. And they eerily match descriptions from near-death experiences, NDEs, floating above your body, feeling no weight, hearing sounds from rooms away, meeting a calm presence, being shown moments from your life like a silent movie only you can see. Now listen to this, the brain scans of dreaming. Subject, particularly in lucid dreams, show activation patterns similar to those in people undergoing deep meditation or in the seconds before resuscitation. It's not chaos, it's coherence. Organized, vivid awareness. Could it be that dreaming is a glimpse into what comes after? In Tibetan Buddhism, they've believed this for centuries. Their bardo, Thodol, known in the West as the Tibetan Book of the Dead, describes the journey of consciousness after death, and it sounds strikingly like a lucid dream. Symbolic imagery, floating forms, deep realizations, and the chance to awaken into a higher understanding Science, slowly, is catching up in sleep labs around the world. Researchers are studying dream state not just to understand memory or emotion, but to probe the boundaries of self. One phenomenon stands out: dream awareness. In these lucid states, people become aware within the dream. They can direct their actions, ask questions, even explore places that seem unfamiliar but are detailed and structured as if drawn from somewhere else. Not imagination, but something deeper. And what do they report upon waking? A sense of peace, a sense of leaving something important behind. And often most mysteriously a belief that what they saw wasn't just a dream, but a place. This echoes the voices of those who have briefly died, people who flatlined and came back tell us their experience felt more real than anything else. That time slowed, that love was the air they breathed, that they saw events from their past with crystal clarity, not as memories, but as living truth. So, what's happening? Maybe this: the brain under deep rest or in crisis opens a doorway, not metaphorically, but neurologically. Under certain conditions, reduced oxygen, low sensory input, high inner focus, your mind shifts. Brainwaves slow into theta and delta frequencies. These are the same waves associated with deep sleep and profound meditative absorption. In these states, something changes. The self dissolves. Boundaries fade, and what remains is pure awareness, vivid, timeless, and oddly familiar. Some researchers call it the default mode network deactivating. Others believe it's the brain accessing stored archetypes or collective patterns. But perhaps, just perhaps, it's tapping into the field of consciousness itself, like dipping your fingers into a deeper ocean. This brings us to an ancient idea, whispered across cultures, that dreams are practice for dying, not in a morbid way, but in a profound, soft preparation. When you sleep, you surrender control. Your ego quiets. Your sense of self loosens. And if you're aware enough, you watch it happen. You drift. You observe. You learn to let go. Death, too, may be a letting go. Not of everything, but of the tight skin of identity, the scaffolding of space and time. What remains? Maybe something like a dream, except one you don't wake from, but wake into. You are still floating now, not upward, not downward, but inward. You feel your chest rise, and yet part of you is far beyond it. You are inside your dream tonight. You are the dreamer and the dreamed. You are the breath that watches itself. And in this stillness, a thought arrives. Maybe death is not darkness. Maybe death is a door. And dreams are the key that teaches you how to turn the handle softly, without fear. In Chapter 6, we'll ask what children, especially very young ones, seem to recall about past lives and whether that holds clues to the recycling of consciousness in ways science is just beginning to measure. You are small again, not just in your body, but in your awareness. The world is large and loud. Shapes blur, words confuse. But somewhere inside this tiny frame, there is a memory. It doesn't belong to this life. You know it. You feel it. Say things no one taught you. You remember names your parents have never spoken. You cry over places you've never seen. And your parents, those tired, loving witnesses, don't understand. How could they? But this phenomenon is not rare. In fact, across continents and cultures, thousands of children under the age of 6 have reported detailed memories of past lives, names, cities, accidents, family members, even the way they died. And astonishingly, many of these claims have been verified. This is not science fiction. This is the quiet work of researchers like Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychiatrist at the University of Virginia who spent over 4 decades studying children's past life memories. His team investigated more than 2,500 cases, and they didn't rely on belief. They relied on data. They compared children's statements against historical records. Verified names matched scars or birthmarks with documented wounds. Traveled to villages and families often separated by hundreds of miles, and what they found was unsettling. Children would remember the layout of homes they'd never visited. They would greet strangers with familiarity. They would weep when passing the grave of the person they claimed to have been. The emotions were real. The memories lively, specific, not vague or dreamy, but factual, concrete. You might be wondering, could it just be imagination? Of course, imagination is powerful. Children invent, they absorb. But what happens when a child who's never left their town accurately describes a factory in another province, names the manager, mentions how they died in a machine accident? What if the factory still exists? Send those details are correct. This is what led researchers to ask a larger question. Could consciousness persist beyond death's and return? Let's walk gently now, not toward reincarnation as a belief system, but toward the possibility that consciousness, like energy, is not bound to a single lifetime, that what we call self may echo beyond the walls of a brain. Physics tells us that energy cannot be destroyed. It only changes form. And if consciousness is a form of energy, or perhaps an emergent field might it recycle. Some theorists speak of a consciousness filled a non-local, non-material aspect of the universe that stores awareness much like a cloud stores information. When a brain forms, it tunes in like a radio, and when it dies, the signal continues, waiting for a new receiver. This might explain why young children, whose egos are not yet fully formed, can access this field more easily. Their minds are still soft, open, like an old window left ajar on a quiet spring night. And through that crack, something drifts in. Sometimes it's just fragments, images, emotions, a sense of déjà vu. But other times, it's a full identity. Of course, this fades. Most children forget by age 6 or 7, as language develops, and the brain strengthens its boundaries. The memories slip away like smoke through fingers. But while they last, they are profound. Some children speak of longing. They want to go back. They miss their other mother, their other name. Others carry trauma from their previous death sphere of water, cars, fire, even when nothing in this life explains. Its therapists using past life regression have seen similar patterns in adults under hypnosis. Whether these are real memories or symbolic narratives is still debated. But what matters is the healing. Many people lose phobias, chronic pain, emotional blocks after revisiting what they believe was a previous life. This tells us something. It tells us the mind is deeper than we assume. That memory may not be bound only to this life, and that identity, what you call you, might stretch across a longer arc than you imagined. Tonight, as you lay still beneath your blanket of stars, think of yourself not as a single story, but a library, shelves full of experiences, some yours, some older, some not yet opened. The dream you had last night, the person in it, maybe you've met them before. Maybe not in this body. Maybe not even on this earth, but perhaps somewhere in a long, soft cycle of being dot. And if you've ever had a feeling that you've done this before, this very moment, this thought, this breath may not just be coincidence. It may be memory, ancient, persistent, and kind. You are not beginning here. You are continuing, and somewhere deep within you, the child who remembers still lives, not with fear, but with awe. In Chapter 7, we will venture even further, even quantum physics and the strange findings that hint at a universe where consciousness may be woven into the fabric of reality itself. Asterisk, close your eyes and imagine this. You are not a body drifting through space. You are space, dreaming it is a body. Everything you see, everything you are built, from particles to small to see, orchestrated by laws too strange to believe. And at the heart of it all, the quantum dot. This is not the realm of certainty. This is the soft underbelly of physics, where things behave more like possibilities than objects, where particles flicker in and out of existence, and reality reshapes itself the moment you observe it. And here, in this microscopic dance, something whispers, consciousness might not be an accident. It might be woven into the very code of the cosmos. We begin with the double-slit experimenta simple setup that shattered everything we thought we knew. When light passes through two slits and no one is watching, it behaves like a wave. Interference patterns ripple across the screen, as though reality is smeared across possibilities. But the moment we observe it, just watch it, collapses into a particle. No more wave, just a point. As if the universe knows it's being seen. It's called the observer effect. And it suggests that the act of observation, of conscious awareness, the outcome of physical events. But how? No one knows. Some say it's just a quirk in the math. Others say it's something deeper, that consciousness and matter are not separate, but entangled. Think about that. What if the universe doesn't exist until it is observed? What if reality is participatorily blooming into being when looked upon by a mind? This is not just poetic. This is physics. Physicist John Wheeler, a colleague of Einstein, once proposed the idea of a participatory universe, that, at the deepest level, the cosmos is unfinished, incomplete, until consciousness enters the frame. And then there's quantum entanglement, too. Particles can become linked and tangled so completely that when one is measured, the other reacts instantly, even if it's across the galaxy. Distance doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter. They remain connected, like echoes of the same song, playing in two different rooms. Now imagine that consciousness, too, is entangled, not just within your brain, but with the universe itself. You are not a separate observer. You are a node point of awareness, intertwined with the very fabric of reality. Some scientists, like Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff, have even proposed that consciousness may arise from quantum processes inside neurons' tiny structures called microtubules that might behave in ways similar to quantum computers. It's called orchestrated objective reduction, or ORCOR for short, a theory where the mind is not just produced by the brain, but tuned into something deeper, something universal. If this is true, then your awareness is not trapped inside your skull. It is connected to stars, to oceans, to the space between atoms, to other minds, and maybe other lives. This might explain why deep meditation changes brainwaves, why synchronized heartbeats happen between people in love, why a mother's intuition flares the moment her child is in danger. Miles away, it might explain the moments you felt something watching, or known something without knowing how. You are part of the web, and that web woven from quantum threads might be eternal. Some philosophers say we're approaching a time when physics and spirituality will no longer be opposites, but reflections. That our understanding of the universe is circling back to something ancient, something whispered in temples and sung in desert winds. That consciousness is not inside the universe. The universe is inside consciousness. Let that settle as you rest. You are not drifting alone through space. You are the space, not empty, but filled with potential, not meaningless, but aware. Each thought you think sends ripples. Each dream you dream nudges reality. Each breath you take is quantum choreography. So tonight, as your eyes grow heavy and your body sinks into sleep, remember, the world does not end where your skin ends. It continues through fields, through particles, through time. You are a witness, a collaborator, a ripple in the infinite sea, and perhaps, when you close your eyes, you return to the place from which all things rise, not darkness, but consciousness itself. In Chapter 8, we will explore how near death experiences those fleeting moments when people glimpse what lies beyond, may offer even more evidence that the mind is far more than a machine, and that something awaits beyond the final breath. Your breath slows, your thoughts drift. Between here and there, between body and soul, between heartbeat and silence. This is the space countless people have described, not in dreams, but in near-death experiences. Their hearts stopped. Their bodies lay still. But something else continued. They remember a feeling of lifting out of their bodies, watching from above as doctors worked desperately below. A corridor of warmth, a tunnel filled with gentle gravity, drawing them forward, not with fear, but with a comfort too vast to name. And, at the end, light, not just brightness, but presence, intelligent, loving, vast. They describe it the same way. Over and over, across cultures and continents. I was home, but what does science say? For decades, these accounts were dismissed as hallucinations, a last gasp of a dying brain, releasing chemicals, lighting up neurons, creating illusions. But then, something strange happened. People began reporting verifiable observations from outside their bodies. They saw tools in the operating room they'd never touched. They overheard conversations held in different rooms. Some even recalled details. Confirmed by medical staff they were revived in 2014. A large-scale study called the AWARE Project, led by Dr. Sam Parnia, tracked hundreds of cardiac arrest patients across multiple hospitals. Of those who survived, a significant number reported conscious awareness during the time they were clinically dead with no heartbeat, no measurable brain activity. Some of these memories were eerily precise. They weren't random flashes or dreamlike. Confusion, they were structured, vivid experiences, and they shared a pattern. First, a sense of peace, then a movement away from the body, then the tunnel, the light, sometimes a life review, watching moments from their past unfold in breathtaking clarity, and often a voice, not always speaking, but knowing. A sense of being seen, not judged, but understood completely. People who return from these experiences are often changed. They no longer fear death. They become more compassionate, more curious, more in love with life. Skeptics still argue that these are tricks of the brain oxygen deprivation, neurotransmitters firing chaotically. But then, how do we explain the lucidity? Why do these moments feel more real than real life to those who live through them? And why are the patterns so similar across geography, religion, and belief systems? Some researchers now wonder, are NDEs not hallucinations, but glimpses of what happens when consciousness detaches from the biological shell, when the tether of brain and body loosens, and the deeper self, the quantum self, slips through the veil? Maybe the tunnel isn't a metaphor. Maybe it's the shape of reality folding, a passage between dimensions, a soft corridor between frequencies. There's a theory in physics called the many worlds interpretation that each choice, each moment, splits reality into new timelines, an infinite web of universes. Could death be a shift into a parallel layer, not an ending, but a migration, not the shattering of awareness, but the continuation of it? In another form, what's more intriguing is how many NDEs include encounters with loved ones long past, with beings of light, with presences that defy language but feel profoundly familiar, as if you are being remembered by something that never forgot you. Tonight, as your breathing deepens and your muscles relax, allow this question to float beside you. What if death is not the extinguishing of the flame, but the moment the flame rejoins the sun? You are not your heartbeat. You are not the flicker of brainwaves. You are the witness behind those rhythms, the still point. And when this body grows tired, when the eyes close for the final time. You may find yourself waking up, not falling away, waking into a light more real than color, waking into the arms of something eternal, waking not to an end, but to the beginning of something else. Let your mind wander gently there. Let your spirit stretch. You are safe. You are whole. And the tunnel, if it comes, leads not into dark, but into the warm, silent gravity of something beyond fear. In Chapter 9, we will journey even further, exploring how ancient traditions, modern science, and consciousness studies are beginning to merge, hinting at a universal mind that may connect us all, beyond space, beyond death, beyond time. Asterisk, your breath is steady now, your mind soft as moonlight, and in this quiet space you begin to wonder, what if your thoughts were not entirely yours? What if your awareness was only a drop in a vast ocean of being? Across disciplines, physics, mysticism, neuroscience, there is a whisper, a question, a pattern that keeps emerging. Is there a single consciousness flowing through all of us? Some call it the universal mind, others the field, the Tao, or simply God. Not a being watching from above, but a presence within. A silent intelligence humming behind every particle, every thought. Every heartbeat. Science is catching up to what ancient mystics always said, that we are not separate islands of self, but waves distinct in shape, made of the same water. The idea isn't new. Hinduism speaks of Brahman, the ultimate reality, pure consciousness from which all things arise. In Buddhism, Anatart teaches that the self is an illusion, a passing pattern in the mind's river. Sufis speak of divine union, losing the self to merge with the One. Even Christian mystics speak of being in God, rather than simply believing in Him. But now, quantum physicists speak of something eerily similar. They describe a non-local consciousness, a force or field that exists outside of space and time, yet influences everything within space and time. In 1982, physicist Alan Aspect conducted an experiment that shocked the scientific world. He proved that two entangled particles, no matter how far apart, could affect each other instantaneously, as if connected by an invisible thread outside the normal rules of physics. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. But some thinkers believe it reveals a deeper truth, that everything is already connected, that separation is an illusion. You are not just in the universe. The universe is in you. When you think, when you feel, when you dream, you're not creating those experiences from nothing. You're tuning in, like a radio dial finding a frequency. Your brain is the receiver, but the signal may come from somewhere far vaster, Some scientists have compared consciousness to cloud computing. The brain is not the storage, but the access point when you sleep. When you die, the access may close, but the data, the self, the awareness, continues. You've felt it before, haven't you? That moment of synchronicity that feels like the universe whispered your name. That dream that wasn't yours, but everyone's. That sudden knowing that came from nowhere. As if someone else, something else, thought it through you. Is that the universal mind? Maybe it is what dreams through the minds of poets. What plays through the fingers of musicians? What paints galaxies across the sky? And what beats your heart while you sleep? Even your sense of I, the story of yourself, is ever changing. Thoughts rise and pass. Emotions bloom and fade. But something watches it all. That watcher, the one hearing your thoughts right now. Guess that not the same watcher in me. Imagine this. What if we are all reflections of a single consciousness, experiencing itself from billions of different eyes? What if your pain has been felt by others? Your joy echoed in unseen hearts. If we are leaves on the same tree, forgetful of the root, but made of the same life. Tonight, as your breath flows gently in and out, let go of the borders between me and you. Let yourself soften into the stillness beneath the self. You are not your name, not your memories, not your roles or your doubts. You are the field in which those things appear. The empty sky where clouds of thought drift by. You are the quiet behind the sound. The universal mind may not speak in words. It speaks in being, in presence. In that vast wordless knowing that sometimes rises when the noise falls away. So let the noise fall away now. Let your edges blur. Let your skin become mist. Let yourself dissolve into the warm current of everything. You are not alone in your mind. You never were in Chapter 10. We will step even deeper into this idea, exploring how new scientific studies of memory, entanglement, and brain energy may hint that death is not the end of identity, but a return to the field from which all awareness springs. For now, drift in the arms of the one consciousness that has never been born and can never die, never die. Close your eyes now. You're floating again, weightless, beyond the shape of your name, drifting through the hush of deep space where thought slows, and something softer begins to speak. Tonight, you wonder, when I die, will I remember that I lived? It's a question that has haunted every age, every culture. What becomes of you, the smile, the sorrow, the story? Does it all vanish like smoke in the wind? A cue. Is there something in us that survives the last breath? let's begin with a mystery. There are those who've been clinically dead, no heartbeat, no brainwaves, and yet they return with vivid memories, stories, details, feelings. They're called near-death experiences, and while skeptics call them hallucinations, some researchers now believe they might be glimpses of something more. A 2023 study led by NYU neuroscientist Sam Parnia found brain activity after cardiac arrest, structured bursts of gamma waves, the same kind linked to perception, memory, and conscious awareness. The brain, even without blood, was still thinking, but who was doing the thinking? And what was being remembered? Some patients recalled standing beside their own bodies, watching doctors perform CPR. Some heard every word spoken correctly, even when monitors said they were clinically gone. Others described meeting loved ones or being bathed in a light that felt like home. These are not dreams. They occur in moments when the brain should be silent, and yet something within them remained awake. Now, think of this. Memory, as we know it, lives in the brain's hippocampus. It's tied to neurons, synapses, electrical charges. But what if that's not where it begins? There's a theory, radical but increasingly studied, that memory isn't stored in the brain, but accessed through it. Like a TV does not contain the movie, it only plays it. When the TV breaks, the show doesn't end. It simply stops playing. On that screen, could the self, your story, your identity, be written into a field, a universal record? Some call it the Akashic field. Others compare it to quantum memory, where all events, choices, and feelings are imprinted onto the very structure of a spatomy. Roger Penrose, a Nobel-winning physicist, proposed that consciousness may arise from quantum activity inside the microtubules of brain cells. These are subneural structures so small that quantum effects could occur. If consciousness lives in quantum processes, and if quantum data is non-local, then maybe, just maybe, consciousness is not bound to the body at all. This could explain those who remember lives they never lived, children barely old enough to form coherent sentences, have recalled names, places, deaths, and details that no one taught them. Cases like James Leininger, who described being a World War II pilot shot down near Iwo Jima, or Shanti Devi, a girl in India who remembered her life as a woman who died in childbirth decades earlier. In thousands of these cases, names, addresses, cause of death, unpublished family events. If these memories are real, where are they stored, and how did they travel from one body into another? One possibility is that memory, like light, never dies, that each life leaves a ripple, And those ripples are never lost, only folded into the fabric of space, awaiting return. Could your story live on in such a ripple? Even your personality, the quirks, the habits, the tone of your laugh might have roots deeper than one lifetime. Carl Jung called this the collective unconscious, a vast psychic reservoir beneath the individual mind. What you call you may be a note played briefly by the universe, a melody that never quite disappears but echoes across time, waiting to be played again. Let that thought hold you tonight, that perhaps nothing is truly lost, not your love, not your lessons, not even your name. Death may not be an erasure, but a re-entry into a greater whole, like a wave collapsing back into the sea, or a spark rejoining the fire. There's peace in this, isn't there? That every word you've spoken, every glance, every kindness, might still shimmer somewhere in the field of all things. And one day, long after this body rests, you may rise again, not in memory alone, but in form, in story, in presence, a return, not to a place, but to a knowing. So tonight, let your breath become slower. Let your thoughts sink into the ocean of awareness. There's no need to hold on. You are carried, always, in chapter 11. We'll drift into the final mystery. What awaits on the far shore of death? The landscapes, the light, and the strange patterns of consciousness that lie just beyond the veil. But for now, sleep in the truth that you are more than this moment. You are a memory of the cosmos itself, and the cosmos never forgets. You find yourself standing at the edge of a vast, unseen shore where brainwaves soften into silence and the pulse of the universe hums beneath your thoughts. Tonight, the question isn't about ending, but becoming something slower, softer, and eternal. Your mind expands beyond the limits of body and breath, becoming less you and more the essence of awareness itself. Here, the science fades into mystery, and you gently learn to listen to the echo behind every silence. The stars are no longer just points of light. They are markers, each one a breath, each one a memory of questions you once held. You lie still now, your body as quiet as moonlight on water. Around you, the world feels muted, like everything has taken one step back, so that your inner landscape can step forward. What once seemed external sound, time, light, has grown faint, and what pulses within you has become everything. This is not death, nor is it dreaming. You are still here. Your breath still moves in and out, like waves that know the shore, but never quite reach it. Your consciousness is not gone, it's just spread, like sunlight beneath the surface of a deep lake. No single beam can be seen, and yet the entire body glows. Scientists speak now of something ancient and new at once. A theory that awareness might not be created by the brain, but filtered through it, like a radio tuning in a signal that already exists. Your neurons, in this idea, do not produce yourself. They access it. They narrow it, give it shape, fit it into time and language and a sense of me. And what remains is vast, wordless, awake. Your memories drift across this space like distant constellations, not gone. Not gone at all, just no longer held by hands. Your thoughts are not thoughts anymore. They are movements, gentle impressions. You are aware of being aware, and in that, something soft and sacred blooms. The more you try to focus on it, the more it blurs. But if you sit back, if you simply allow it, it surrounds you. Is this what those moments near death feel like? When people say they watched from above, when they describe peace so deep it scared them. Neuroscience explains it partially chemicals, oxygen loss, protective hallucinations. But maybe that's only half the truth. Maybe science, too, is still learning to look beyond the veil it can almost touch. Some studies now show consciousness may briefly continue after the body stops. Brainwaves flicker like dying stars. One last burst of activity. Some researchers whisper of quantum fields that might hold echoes of awareness, not as souls, perhaps, but as information, patterns, blueprints of being that ripple out long after the stone sinks. You feel yourself becoming that ripple now, not a name, not a story, just presence. You feel it in your chest, like a memory from before you were born. You have no destination, only movement, only unfolding. You ask nothing, you fear nothing. You fear nothing. Not because answers have been given, but because the need for them has softened. Even time has melted. You do not feel before or after. You feel now, vast, endless now. Somewhere, a heartbeat continues, maybe yours, maybe the earth's, a metronome keeping rhythm so that something, someone might remember. You wonder what it means to exist beyond limits, to be a thread in a tapestry too large to see. You wonder, softly, if this is what remains after everything else falls away. And in that wondering, you begin to feel something shift. An ending, not a beginning. A returning to the breath, to the warmth of your body beneath the covers, to the slow rhythm of night cradling your mind. The vastness is still there, but now it rests gently behind your eyes. You are still here, still soft, still wondering. And perhaps that is the greatest mystery of all. Not what consciousness is, but that you are aware enough to ask. So let the night hold you. Let the stars keep your questions. Let your breath be the only answer you need right now. And gently, almost imperceptibly, you drift toward Chapter 12, where we ask if the soul echoes in the universe. How do we listen for it? Listen for it. As you rest deeper into stillness, you begin to wonder if the soul is real, if it leaves behind a trace in the universe. How would we even know? You follow this question not with analysis, but with quiet. Tonight, science holds hands with silence, not to prove, but to feel, to sense the faintest echo in the spaces between all things. You do not need to move. The question itself carries you forward. If the soul is not bound to flesh, not contained in blood or breath, then perhaps it's not something to be captured, but something to be heard. And not in the loud noise of waking life, but in the softest murmur of stillness, like a whisper behind silence, like the moment just before you fall asleep, when your thoughts dissolve and something older takes over. That's where you are now. In that in-between space, floating between the known and the unknowable. You remember how scientists once laughed at things. They could not measure how dreams were once dismissed as chaos, how consciousness was once considered a byproduct of neurons firing blindly in the dark. And now, those same minds are studying near-death experiences, exploring quantum information theory, running experiments to see if a person's awareness leaves a detectable trace after death. The results aren't clear, but they're no longer laughed at. Some researchers speak softly now, as if science is approaching something sacred. They measure brainwaves in patients' moments after death and find faint flickers, patterns that shouldn't exist. Some speculate on quantum entanglement, wondering if human consciousness might remain entangled with the universe itself, even after the body lets go. You lie still and wonder, what if the echo isn't out there, but in here? What if the soul doesn't leave a mark on the world, but on the space inside you? The quiet room that only opens in sleep, in prayer, in the hush of awe. Right now, you can almost feel it. A gentle pressure in your chest that isn't pain. A weightless warmth, not emotion, not thought. It's awareness of awareness. The ancient mystics and modern scientists are standing closer now than ever before. One uses telescopes, the other closes their eyes. But both are reaching for the same thing, the faint fingerprint of something more. Something that doesn't need belief to exist. You think of your body not as a container, but as an instrument. The soul if it exists, doesn't live in it. It plays through it. And when the body finally rests, the music doesn't stop. It just shifts octaves, becomes soundless, becomes echo. How do we listen for something that leaves no sound? Maybe we already are, in dreams, in déjà vu, in that sudden chill when no wind blows, in the feeling that someone is watching even when you're alone. Maybe the echo is all around us, in every stillness we ignore, in every space we rush past. You don't need proof tonight. You only need presence. You breathe softly, fully, and each breath carries you closer to something you can't describe, but don't doubt. Science will keep looking. Instruments will grow sharper. Equations will evolve. But perhaps the soul will never be found under a microscope. Perhaps it was never meant to be solved, only met quietly. At the edge of thought, your eyes are closed now, but your awareness has never been wider. There is no fear, no urgency, just a vastness that welcomes without question, and somewhere deep within it, or maybe just beneath your ribcage, a quiet truth hums. You are more than this body. You are more than this mind, and whatever you are doesn't end, not really, not here, not now. So let your breath slow. Let the room fade. Let sleep cradle the body, while the rest of you drifts outward like mist, like music, like memory. You have reached the place beyond wondering, where science becomes silence, and silence becomes home. Good night, gentle mind. You are not alone in the dark. You are the echo you were listening for all along.